Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Raw Air, the second edition of this competition, inaugurated last season, which brings together the best ski jumpers in the world to tackle on a daily basis 4 different venues, 4 different hills. We begin here in Oslo at the famous Holmenkollen. We travel to Lillehammer and to Trondheim, and finally we end up Sunday week on the big hill at Vikersund. And these are the details. There you can see the times. They're all Central European times. But the facts and figures about Raw Air are simply that every performance from every jumper actually counts. So what that means is that today's qualification points are the first set of points that are available. And even if you're eliminated and don't qualify for Sunday's individual competition, the points that you do score are carried on to the next phase. And if you're selected to be in your national team tomorrow for the team event, then the points that you score individually will be added to those that you achieved today. And it accumulates right the way through the 4 venues. And so from today, Friday, right through to Monday of next week. And then on every single day, we have a competition for you that takes real determination, takes real skill, takes real human management by the athletes themselves, because it is demanding.
Your expectations this year about the Raw Air?
Yeah, for the first day it looks pretty good. The conditions look really amazing, so I'm really looking forward to it. Actually, it has been a really nice competition or series of competition last year, so I think we're going to have a pretty nice time with nice sportsmen, really good athletes, and it will be a tight competition, I guess. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, and I think we're ready.
Richard Freitag, already a 3-time winner this season in World Cup. But more about who are the favourites to succeed when we come back after this. Well, once again, good evening, everybody. The clock ticking towards 7:30 here on the famous Holmenkollen Hill. And as you could see, -3, the conditions pretty good, better than we might have expected. The good news, though, is that the sky, although a bit cloudy, is clear, none of that Holmenkollen fog. The disappointment already, I can tell you, is the fact that the stadium here, the Holmenkollen Bowl, sparsely attended at the moment, but hopefully we'll get bigger numbers as the weekend progresses. The team competition tomorrow and the first individual competition on Sunday. So if you are just joining us, the Raw Air, which was inaugurated last year, is an accumulation of points by each athlete for the competitions that they embark on over the next 10 days. This is the starting order for today's qualification, with no less than 73 athletes on the start list. 50 places, of course, only available for the Sunday competition, so 23 to be eliminated. But if you are eliminated today, the points that you score will be valid to carry on. So if you have a bad start to Raw Air, not everything's lost. It's a huge disadvantage, but you still carry your points forward. And likewise, for if you're included in the team competitions. As we see the lineup here, Gregor Schlierenzauer, better performance in Lahti last weekend. But talking about the Raw Air, well, good prize money as a bonus. Not only the World Cup prize money in Swiss francs, but also a healthy bonus for the first, second and third, who are ranked at the end of the tournée. 60,000 to the winner, 30,000 to the second, 10,000 to the third. And that first prize is 3 times the bonus that the winner of the 4 Hills gets. And surely the 4 Hills organisers are going to have to take note of this and respond. Andy Wellinger of Germany, the Olympic champion, one of the favorites for this year's Raw Air tournament. He was third last year. He let himself down in the final event in Vikersund. But here we go with the qualification, the first step on a long journey, and it's Robin Pedersen for Norway, one of the national group, to get us underway. Backwind conditions, but very quiet at the moment. And the calculation line here in Oslo, 120 meters. And the hill record, Andy Kurfler, in 2011 flew out to 141 meters, and that still remains today the best in competition distance. This young man, 21 years of age, went to the Junior World Championships a couple of years ago, finished outside the top 20, gets us underway, and now one of his Norwegian teammates. This is Joachim Bjøring, a year older and just a little bit more experienced. Was 7th in the Junior Worlds 3 years ago. Coming out of gate number 15 in the 2 training efforts during the afternoon. We ranged from gates 14 and up to 15, and for Camille Stoch, who delivered 130 meters in the second training effort from gate number 13, the most noticeable effort, I think, of the whole training session. So Joachim there, yet to score any World Cup points this season, although he has been in the points in Vikersund in previous years. This is Buskum, Andreas Buskum for Norway. Didn't really get that as well timed as he could have done. Another 21-year-old. All his work in Continental Cup. And the best result he's had was just recently when he finished 10th in one of the 2 competitions in Rennes, but he's way down the ranking. But just to let you know that the Junior World Champion of Norway, the Junior World Champion from Norway, Marius Lindvik, he's in tonight's competition. He leads the Continental Cup rankings from Andreas Vank, who's also in the lineup, and Nej Desmond from Slovenia also in there. More of that when we get to them. Aune looking to get that little bit closer to the calculation line, but unfortunately 113.5 meters, that's really the same as the young man who preceded him. Has been in the World Cup points last season in Trondheim, which is stop number 3 on our Raw Air journey. And thumbs down from him as we now move on to Sondre Ringen. Sondre, again, Continental Cup is where he's been plying his trade. He's had 2 runners-up spots and a 3rd place. Ranked just outside the top 20 in Continental Cup. And 111.5 meters. Unlikely, I would have thought, on this evening to be sufficient in terms of distance and style points. There you can see the backwind there in that lime green, giving the compensation points. And so on to Tom Hilda. This his swan song season, so to speak. Never won here, but he was runner-up in 2008. And obviously it would be really nice if he could find some of his very best form in the twilight of this season. Hilda, for him, it's been a struggle. No World Cup points so far this season. Not selected for Pyeongchang. Was engaged in Continental Cup. And last weekend, 36th in Lahti. He's a man who, in his time, has achieved 3 victories, 5 runner-up spots, 7 times he's been placed third, and momentarily he has the advantage. Sokolenko for Kazakhstan. A breath of backwind at the moment, but very poor. Some interesting news chatting to Walter Hofer, the International Federation's race director for ski jumping. Apparently, and I didn't know anything about this, that they built another ski jumping hill. They've got great facilities in Almaty, but they've built one close to Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan, equipped with plastic. But I gather from Walter that it's in a part of the world, the sort of desert part, where the wind can blow at 10 meters per second. So that's a bit of a mystery. Turkey. Well, a little bit two-footed on landing there. This is Ayberk Demir, a 21-year-old, and of course they have the hills at Erzurum that were built originally for the Universiade, then pretty well destroyed by a landslide, and now back in working order. Andy Schuler for Switzerland. And the conditions not unfavorable here, but really crucial on this hill as you come down through the compression onto the table to really time the transition with power. And Schuler short of the calculation line, 5 meters, something like that indeed. 115 meters, so 5 meters short. But like earlier in the season, the Villingen 5, every competitive jump counts. And that's the trend, because I can tell you that Planica is going to adopt the same profile. We're going to have the Planica 7 with a 20,000 euro bonus for the winner at the end of the season. I don't think it'll be figuring Mr. Korolev for Kazakhstan. I find it fascinating that the powers that be in Kazakhstan can find money for a new hill, yet the investment that needs to go into the team in terms of coaching, both in terms of the fitness program and the technical program, plus materials, that seems to be lacking, the motivation, the impulsion for that. But I really hope that for next season things are going to change for the better. Andreas Alamomo for Finland. Had his first taste of Olympic sport in Pyeongchang. Didn't figure last weekend in Lahti. So at the moment, early days, but Tom Hilde with the advantage, 180 meters, leading his younger Norwegian teammate Joachim Uregård Bjøring by 4.6 points. And Alamomo disappointing there. That may not be enough. And there briefly you saw momentarily Stefan Kraft, the defending champion of the raw air from last year when few could beat him. Nazarov for Russia, the first of their aspirants. Nazarov only 23, and I think there are possibilities. You wouldn't say so looking at that, but I think there's something about this man that we've seen on odd occasions. No World Cup points yet. His best result came on the ski flying hill in Kulm in mid-January when he was 34th. But out in the Olympic Games on the big hill, 39th there, so a flavor of Olympic history for him personally. Now France Thomas Roch-Duplon. And Colin Girard bringing another youngster into the World Cup. He's 22 years of age, a little bit older than Jonty Leroy, who is lined up in this competition. He's had quite a break since the Olympic Games and hasn't been involved recently in World Cup. But this man has had 3 goes at the Junior World Championships, yet to make his mark. And directly on to yet another of the Kazakhs. Well, again, for Sabijan Muminov, again, woefully short, 99 meters. And it's almost like falling off the table, really, over the knoll. And 50th on his home hill in Almaty. Some seasons back, his best ever. And now Turkey, Fatih Ipsioglu from Erzurum, where he's scored points in Continental Cup on several occasions. Basabac, who was one of the coaches who used to look after the Turkish team. So Ipsioglu, well, I hope he enjoys the raw air journey, but unfortunately he's more likely than not to miss out on these qualification opportunities. And of course Turkey without a team, so it's all about education and experience for him. Zaparov, by contrast, 32 years of age. And that's not the first time we've seen that sort of body language reaction. And at the moment, Tom Hill there leading quite handsomely and looking as if the 118 that he's got, even though it's a big field of 73, may well be good enough. Raw air last year, terrifically well organized. Stefan Kraft was the champion. He was the winner of the individual competition here, also the individual competition in Trondheim. Bressadola for Italy. The Italians, well, Lucas Croce, I'll be interested to hear from him. I haven't had a chance to talk to him, but interested to see how he sees next season going, what he believes he's got to change and introduce to really bring these guys up to standards. It's a question of men like Bressadola at the age of 29 who had ingrained bad habits, and that by that I'm referring to technique, which needs to be repaired, but it's sometimes not easy. And Romashov for Russia now. Very possible to get to the calculation line here. We've seen that in training today. And it's the upper red line here in Holmenkollen. Not much of an atmosphere, the boys. You can see the stands momentarily as the camera pans round this. I think that the Holmenkollen really still remains essentially a Nordic cross-country competition. That's its great tradition, with the 50 kilometers and 30-kilometer races to come over the weekend. And ski jumping somehow has got rather left behind in the public's mind, which is really disappointing. But then again, it's a long time since a Norwegian won here. 2004, Roy Jökulsøy. Now that is a drought. Michael Glasner, who's had little to smile about this season. Probably winning that competition just before the turn of the year in Park City, which was a winner-take-all opportunity to book your flight ticket to the Olympic Games. And there he was jumping in front of 12,000 people, the biggest crowd that he'd ever performed in front of in the USA. And now Mate Nome. 43rd in Lahti, qualified quite well last weekend. Lahti, not a strange hill to Marti. A lot of the Estonians, despite having the facility at Otava, still from time to time go across to the big hill at Lahti for some training opportunities. But at the moment, you can understand the few fans that we have being a little bit quiet. It's a Norwegian leaderboard at the moment, and Anze Lanisek now. This is interesting. Lanisek, last year, completely different athlete to the one we've seen this season. That's getting closer to Hilda. Still with gentlemen who scored no points so far in the World Cup. Last year he was 33rd in the World Cup ranking. In 2016 he was 25th. And in both of those seasons he achieved 4th place finishes. Once in Russia, once in South Korea. But that sort of form, well, it hasn't been seen in the current campaign. Andreas Wank now, this could be interesting. At the moment, second only to Marius Lindvik in the Continental Cup rankings. That's much better. And Andreas, who was first and second last weekend in Renna, right here in Norway, to move up into second place in the Continental Cup rankings. That's where he's been doing most of his work to regain his shape, his confidence, and takes the lead. 1.5 meters of bonus points in terms of distance, and goes ahead of Tom Hilda by some 5.7 points, or 3 meters or so. Aschenwald for Austria, much to think about and chew upon for head coach Heinz Kutin. And that's not far off 120 meters either. So this man, only 22 from Ramsau, 120 exactly, so 60 jumping points. Hasn't been involved in World Cup this season, but he has been top 15 in his time a couple of seasons back in Kuopio in Finland. Stephen Aman, a former winner here of the Holmenkollen. Mind you, it was the old model, and now Roberto Della Sega. Not impressive at all in Lahti, and not too much to get excited about here for this 27-year-old from Predazzo, and 97 meters surely is not going to see him into the individual competition on Sunday. Can't see that happening. So a bit more international, the top lines of the board, and now coming on to Sebastian Colorado. After him will be the promising young Frenchman, Jonty Leroy. Well, Colorado probably just enough, you know, to maybe get him into the individual round on Sunday. Andreas Vank is the first man to definitely get the letter Q by his name. So you'll be seeing him on Sunday, hopefully with us. And Aschenwald now qualified as well. Colorado must wait. And Jonty Leroy, this 17-year-old. No doubt Chris and Lucy looking on, and also Louis, the younger brother. So that's okay, that's right up to the calculation line. Jonty, who, because he hasn't been competing in Continental Cup, has slipped down to 9th place. But he's been a winner and also a runner-up on a couple of occasions. And out in Pyeongchang, finished 41st and 27th in the 2 individual events. Was a bit disappointed, as he was really in the Junior Worlds when he finished 6th, when a lot of us thought that he was a real podium candidate. But time is on his side and he remains an exciting prospect. Now, so does Vladimir Zagravsky. Now he's teamed up with Matthias Supan from Slovenia. That's also around about 120 meters. Never done anything here at Oslo. 119.5 meters, that's okay. And style-wise, this is also all right. And he's got about a meter of backwind compensation coming his way. So that will keep him in 3rd place, but he's qualified, and so has Jonty Leroy. He's through to Sunday's individual competition. Alex Insam, can he cheer up the Italians? Same sort of territory. Junior World Champion last season. Hasn't quite moved on from that level. But in Pyeongchang, 23rd on the big hill was not bad. 25th in Villingen is best of the season before the Olympics. And Insam, also one of the 50 who you'll be seeing on Sunday. Yevgeny Klimov, where it's been a patchy season, more off than on, I have to say. Better. Pity about the wobble on the end. That's going to knock him down style-wise to 17, possibly the odd 16 there. In fact, let's have a look at this again. I think this might be a full point and a bit good. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that'll be 16s. It won't be. It's almost not a telemark. And 8th place. So that at the moment leaves him out of qualification. Closest, if somebody messes up, to squeezing in, Sebastian Colorado, then Hilde, then Klimov, and now Mackenzie Boyd-Close. Just a hint of better things happening for him in the Olympics. 21st and 26th individually. And he was 23rd in Villingen. Just missed the cut for the final round last weekend in Lahti. That was disappointing. But that will see him into Sunday's event. But of course, the leader has 116.3 points. And the likes of Stefan Kraft and Camille Stock, Richard Freitag, Robert Johansson, they're the men in form, or some of them, and they're likely to accumulate a lot more points. Roman Kudelka, well, there's a flash of sunshine there in terms of qualification. The whole of the Czech squad has been out of sorts. since the get-go right at the end of November. And second place in qualification, maybe that'll cheer him up a little bit. Killian Pyer didn't qualify for the Olympic Games. Hugely disappointed about that. Didn't make any impression in Lahti either last weekend. 40th. Did qualify, but only 40th after the first round. But 118 meters sufficient here. But this is such a different competition. You need to stay close to the men who are most likely to succeed. An early deficit here can be really hard to claw back. I'll give you a little example of that in a moment. After Alto, Antti. Well, little hope for Alamomo, but 116.5 meters. I'm not sure whether this is going to be quite good enough. I don't think it is. Few points at the beginning of the campaign, but really he's struggled. He hasn't moved forward from last year. And 16th now, well out of contention, I'm afraid. I was talking about the difference between getting off to a good start and having to catch up. Now, Andy Vellinger got off to a very good start in the Oslo qualification last year. First place, 140.5 points. By contrast, Stefan Kraft was only 5th at that point, the ultimate winner of Raw Air, and only collected 129.8 points. So he started with a 10-point deficit over the man who led early on. And Kamil Stock, who was destined to finish second in the Raw Air, he finished 11th in the prologue, or qualification as this is, and 124.5 points. So he gave away 15.5 points in qualification to Andy Vellinger. But unfortunately for Andy, who was going really well right up until the very last round, the individual team flying, and individual flying, I should say, and 18th place, 371 points compared to Kamil Stoff's 466. Sato, that's really nice. Snapped the telemark, and I mentioned in Lahti that this is a man to keep on the right side of, to have in your notebook. Having said that, Lahti didn't make any World Cup points, but on the other hand, that's okay. Should get 18s for that, I would hope, and indeed, that's the average, and takes a decent lead. 5.3 points ahead of Andreas Vank, Japan with the edge. Now, Kevin Bickner. Talk about Jonty Leroy being a prospect to be excited about. Well, likewise for Kevin Bickner for the United States. If anybody's going to pull America towards the podium positions, it's going to be this man. Seems to have, in the latter stages, but particularly waking up in the Olympic Games, getting the power down, committing himself. And this is up there with Sato. Maybe not quite so elegant, and a little bit of front wind deduction there in the red. That's why he's in second place, but that's okay. And exciting to see these guys beginning to make their mark. Kozicek, well, fingers crossed, everything crossed. You can't really be certain. His performance graph has got a plunging line in a southerly direction at the moment, and that's short of the calculation line. I can tell you that Colorado and Hilda and Klimov and Killian Parr have all qualified now as a result of some of the poorer efforts that we've seen in the last few minutes. And it's Joachim Bjordang who's waiting to get a qualifying place. And he's just got it. Kozicek out of qualification. Now, the Continental Cup leader, the junior world champion, just 19. Really exciting, fine prospect for Norway. And that's the sort of effort that Marius Lindvik has been putting in. Goes into the overall lead in terms of distances achieved. Lindvik, who has had no less than 4 victories in Continental Cup, and also he's been runner-up on 3 occasions. He's been 3rd also on 3 occasions, but he's only 62 points ahead of Andreas Wang, so it's going to be very interesting when it comes to not this weekend but next weekend, when the next round of the Continental Cup happens, whether he'll switch out of that to go back and try and win the Continental Cup title. The same would apply to Andreas Wang. Jakub Volny probably just enough here. A little bit of front wind has come in, but it really is a light breath. He had front wind during training. It's a crosshead wind, not much more than 0.5 meters per second. And as you see the next man on the bar, the direction is from the right of your television screen to the left of your television screen. And here's the man who lies in 4th place in the Continental Cup rankings, Nej Desmond. Started to find his form a little late in the season. I think if he'd rediscovered it, he might have been a contender for a place in the Olympic Games, but not to be. He was way down last year in raw air in 46th place. And really the undoing for him was the fact that he just didn't garner in enough points in qualification. Found himself outside the top 30, outside the top 40. Now, Heinz Kudin looking for good things here from Gregor Schlierenzauer. That's much better. And what a difference. Well, I said it last weekend in Lahti that the penny had dropped. The wake-up call was realized during the Olympic Games that it was much harder than he originally thought it would be to get back. This is a man who was victorious here in Oslo in 2013. And Schlierenzauer up into 2nd place behind the junior world champion. And I still think if he works hard and applies himself, he can add to those 53 World Cup victories that he already has achieved. Deschwanden, who has been as good as 11th here over the years. Now 27 years of age, Gregor. The Olympics was forgettable, really. He didn't perform as well in Pyeongchang as he had done in Sochi in 2014. So from that point of view, a real disappointment. And still That's 7th place in Nizhny, his best result of the season. That was mid-December. Now, here's an exciting find. Another man for the notebook. The Junior World silver medalist this year behind Marius Lindvik, Konstantin Schmidt for Germany. And this is a terrific asset for the likes of Werner Schuster and the coaching team. Of course, the Germans with Roald Jokasøy, the last Norwegian to win here in Oslo, who now, and has done for some time, been their flight coach for the German team. And Schmidt up into a promising 3rd place. Timmy Zeitz taken to the Olympics to get a little bit of experience by Goran Janus. Took him out of the team event. I think that was probably a wise decision. But Timmy, again, part of the new generation. Three top 20 finishes in the World Cup campaign. So Timmy Zeitz has to wait and see. He got 115 meters, 104.9 points. Anybody does worse than that and he'll be into Sunday's competition. Now Takeuchi, under the guidance there of Tomoharu Yokokawa, I should say. And that, I'm afraid, is not good enough. '28. Well, we are looking for 50, but not in the lineup at the moment. And now Clemens Eigner for Austria. Eigner, this Austrian who really dominated the Continental Cups of 2016 and 2017. He was the champion in those 2 years. And that'll see him into Sunday's competition. Indeed, when you look at his Continental Cup record, he was a winner in Engelberg, Frenstadt, Bischofshofen, Tchaikovsky, Zakopane on a couple of occasions, Renner here in Norway also on a couple of occasions, and Sapporo. So he was prolific in that regard, and also plenty of other podium finishes, but he hasn't quite made the transition from Continental Cup, the step up to World Cup. And it's quite a step now with everybody working at such a high level. Well, here's another man who's been successful in Oslo, but you have to turn back the pages to 1999, March 1999. And Kasai, well, it would be lovely to see him get something out of the tail end of this season. From all we understand, he's determined to continue into his 46th year. Well, he's in his 46th year, but to keep going into his 47th year. And 117.5 meters. There's the little Q by the number, which tells you that he's at least going to be in the first round on Sunday. Danny Huber now for Austria, from the Seerkirchen Salzburg club, mid-20s. Best result, first competition of this season back in November, 6th in Wiesbaden. That's okay. Over the calculation line, and that gives Austria another challenger. backwind has returned. And he's going to get about 1.5 meters of backwind compensation. So that'll move him up the order just a little bit. 7th place, so not too bad. The leader at the moment, Marius Lindvig, with 124.7 points. And just to give you another guide, the winner of this qualification last year, Andy Bellinger, with 140. So that's the sort of points total we're looking for. Ryoyo Kobayashi. And Ryoyo continues to say to all of us that his form is just getting better and better as the season progresses. That's only 0.5 meter down on Marius Lindvig, but the difference is that he's got 2 meters of backwind compensation. His style marks will be sort of 17.5 to 18, I would think. Could be leading. And Japan, yes, indeed, 125.8, and that's a 1.1 point lead. Japan from Norway, from Austria, then Germany, and then Sato of Japan in 5th place, and now Tellen Bartol. Well, we've not seen anything exceptional so far, but plenty of talent to come. And as ever, throughout this World Cup season, as it is in all competitions this season, no one is protected when it comes to qualification. Those days are behind us now. And Miki Heibeck for Austria. Now, this man, I think, has not been a million miles away. Was ranked 12th in the raw air last year. And a good performance, even a podium, could be possible before this 10-day journey is over. Round the 120-meter mark again for Michael Heibeck. 3 top 15 finishes, his best results of the season, so this is a little disappointing, but again, the style is okay, the touchdown is okay, a couple of meters of compensation help him, but he is 13 points behind the leader. There is the leader, Ryoyo Kobayashi, and now Halvor Egner Granerud from Oslo. Well, he's been rather overshadowed by the likes of Johansson and Tande and Forfang, but he's produced 1 or 2 good efforts. And there's another one. Nicely timed there and really got over the skis quickly. And, well, if that was friends and family, I'm not sure, but they applauded, so I'm going to assume that they have some relationship with him. They'll be pleased with that. Style-wise, this is pretty good, one of the best we've seen. Good spacing, nicely finished off there, no wobbles, no instability. And Granerud up into 3rd place. Polish fans making some noise for Maciej Kot. Climbed a little bit, and you saw that off the table. You saw his backside was down. He climbed off the table there and rather made a mess of this. And this is not good news for Maciej Kot. And that is a poor effort. And 112 meters, that is just the sort of disaster you don't want at the beginning of raw air. 37th. And more than 13 to come, so mathematically, Maciej Kot at the moment not looking likely to make the cut. The winner here in Oslo in 2010, Simi Aman. This is a hill he has always liked, Simi. So that leaves him at this moment in time a few points to make up on the leader there. He's about 5 points off the lead, so no big damage, but the big gun's still to come. And Semenitz now. Simi was also a winner here in Oslo in 2007. He was a runner-up in 2004. That's what I meant about him rather liking this hill. That was pretty poor. Two-footed landing. Marks can't be better than 15s. And the distance, sub 110, as you can see. And like Maciej Kot, here's a man who has lost his shape and form. Yet this was a man who achieved his first ever World Cup success in Zakopane in the build-up to the Olympic Games. Stefan Laie. Only one opportunity at the Olympics in the German team that ultimately finished as silver medalist, so that's his first ever major championship medal. And Stefan, solid. Just looking down at one or two people who at the moment haven't qualified in the danger zone. Well, Kozicek, Alto, Romashov, Takeuchi, Kornilov, Kot. None of those are at the moment in Sunday's event, and it's getting more difficult to see them finding a place as we get to the men in form. And Peter Preutz never won here, was runner-up here last year, Peter Preutz. Peter, who started with second place in the qualification and then rather lost his way in the individual competition and also in the Lillehammer prologue. He was outside the top 15, and that's really where his challenge went awry. Karl Geiger. Well, Karl Geiger, on the form that we've seen recently, you can't rule him out of this. Last year, Geiger, top 25 individually on Holmenkollen. Well, there's a lot of men peppering the calculation line, and Geiger joins them. Star-wise, I would think 17.5, 18, these are the sort of marks that he gets regularly. And a bit of compensation to go as well. Not quite 2 meters, but 117 points. Compares with the leaders 125, so 8 points, about 5 meters adrift. And now Jewa. Not quite sure what we get with Jewa these days. Stefan Horngacher definitely gave him a wake-up call after the Olympic Games. And that's the wrong side of the calculation line. One podium this year in Villingen. which suggested at the time that he might be finding his form on the eve of the Olympics at just the right moment. But the one thing in his favor is that he's a Holmenkollen winner. That was in 2013 here, but 30th place and 109 points. So that's like 26 points down. That's a long way back. That's like giving away 14 meters. Yone Damian. Never won here, never been in the top 10 here. But soldiering on, pretty well more the same really, there or thereabouts, but doesn't suggest that he's going to be a winner again this season. But the first time he won, the only time he won this season, that was a shock. It was a bit of a surprise, I think, to him too. So on the basis of that, you can't quite rule him out. And, you know, 10th place, 6 points, 3-4 meters down. No big damage at the moment. Now, Stefan Hula. More Polish cheers. Needs to start with a big one here to get him on his way. And that's not too bad, is it? Those dreaded Polish vuvuzelas. 123 meters. Style will be okay. This will be more 18s than anything else. About 1.5 meters. That'll take him up to 124.5. Could be top 5. And indeed, top 5 he is. And so that puts him less than 3 points behind Ryoyo Kobayashi, who continues with the advantage. Andy Sternen. Sternen, whose dad Ruhr, I think, is chief of competition in Trondheim, if my memory serves me right, will be chief of competition there. Olympic gold medalist, of course, with the Norwegian team. Excellent. And this could be the big difference for Norway. These boys need to deliver the goods. And if they do, surely they'll drag the fans out. And that's a decent start. And Sternen into the #1 spot. Indeed, Ruhr Sternen in Trondheim is indeed the chief of competition. Now Fanemel for Norway. Very keen. And of course this man will look forward to Vikersund, former ski flying world record holder, off that hill as well. Kraft is the man who still controversially for me has the ski flying record. I still think it ought to be Robert Johansson, but that's only my opinion. So now the top 10 to come, and the host country leading. Kobayashi, Ryoyo continuing his good form. The promising Marius Lindvik in there. Granerud, so good Norwegian placings at the moment with plenty of talent to come. Good to see Bickner in there, along with Carl Geiger. And they're now 13 points behind the leader, Jonty Leroyd, in 26th place there. That would put him, what, 18 points off the lead, 10 meters. And now it stretches away to the top 50, but only the top 40 at the moment are guaranteed a place, because these guys are mathematically out of it, unless the final 10, the stars of the show, so to speak, all fall over, which I'm pretty sure they're not going to do. So 23 will be eliminated, and there you can see all the Kazakhs in a bundle. So Sternen, this could be a very good raw air for Andy Sternen. Knows these hills so well, and a good start here. And then, of course, Trondheim is his home hill. But what will Mr. Kubatsky have to say about this? That's encouraging, isn't it? David Kubatsky twice third and fourth in Lahti last weekend, and up to 130 meters, so 2.5 meters further than Sternen. Just the landing where he's given a bit away there, you can see. That'll possibly knock him into the sort of 17.5 to 18 range. Otherwise, he might have been nudging 19 if it had been a quality telemark. Very little backwind, and Kubatsky nips in front of Sternen, but only by 1.2 points. And now, Robert Johansson. A lot of people think that this could be his raw air tournament. 2 individual bronzes and a gold with the Norwegian team at Pyeongchang. And that gives you an indication of why I said what I just did say. He's very much a contender. Right up there, Robert Johansson in training from gate 15, which is what we're coming out of now. 131 in the second effort, 128 the distance in the first. So a really consistent Friday for Robert. And that, as you can see, runs him up into the lead, 132.3 points. So we're getting ever closer to the 140. Maybe we won't get there tonight, but let's see. Now, Junshiro Kobayashi, at the moment in the shadow of his younger brother, Ryoyu. But really good for not only Japan, but for the brothers, that they're, as it were, able to push and encourage each other. This isn't better than Ryoyu, certainly not in distance, but it will be good enough to see him into Sunday's competition. Currently ranked 8th in the season-long World Cup. And next up, well, not this man, he'll be last to go. 130 meters in the second training effort from Kamil Stoch. But this is Marcus Eisenbichler, who finally tasted success in the shape of form of a lifetime best last Sunday in Lahti when he finished second. Second to, of course, that man, Kamil Stoch, notching up his 6th victory of the season. Izzy, who was nervous, anxious, tight throughout the Olympics, wanted it so much, but that's a better telemark in terms of stability. 18's appearing, so top 10, and he's 15 points behind. So again, 15 points, it's a deficit, 8 meters, and now the defending champion makes his first move. Stefan Kraft, back on the podium in Lahti. And a little bit of wobble there from Stefan on the telemark landing. But the distance, decent. But for that wobble, I think he might have squeezed the odd 19, but he's not going to as a result of it. Still only 24 years of age, Stefan Kraft. So much to offer. And Johan Andre Forfang now top 10 here. Some 3 years ago, that's the best he's ever done here in Oslo. He's another Trondheim man. Well, lives there, but he comes from Tromsø. And Robert Johansson has got a challenge on his hands. These are Norway's big guns. And this is pretty decent stuff. I think Robert will just hold on. He's got that extra half meter. He had a whisker more of backwind compensation indeed, but they're very close. And Robert Johansson from Forfang, 2.7 points in favor of Robert Johansson. And now Daniel Andre Tande. Not particularly consistent at the moment. That's the issue. Never won here, has been top 10. But Tande, well, last year in this very opener, down in 23rd place. Got to do better than that. And certainly will. Only had 118 points, whereas Andy Vellinger had 140. So never got off on a good foot, so to speak. And once again, I mean, he's got work to do here, but you couldn't write him off. It's too early to do anything as silly as that. But 7th place. And Tande, 125 points. The leader, his teammate Johansson, 137. So once again, 12 points difference. So 7 meters or so. And now the purple pioneer, Andy Vellinger, Olympic champion, plus 2 other silver medals. Terrific games for this 22-year-old. Lovely skis. And he may not have mastered the class, but Vellinger, 126 meters, that's in the same zone as Stefan Kraft. So by his high standards, I'd say that was average. And 5th place, so he's got a little bit of catch up there. 10 points off the lead. 2 to go in what has been a very stable set of conditions here. And Richard Freitag, the #2 in the World Cup. And the raw air wasn't his cup of tea last year. He finished 14th. He started off with a 7th place finish in the quali. Didn't manage to muster 130 points. That's very good. That is just the start that the Freitag family want. And well, his sister Selina will be delighted with that. 130 meters. Now, this is stylish. This is going to get the 19s. And, you know, Camel Stock's to come. But Freitag, traditionally, it is a little compressed on the touchdown. But I tell you what, with virtually no wind assistance or deficiency, it goes into 2nd place. And the only reason for that really is that little bit of extra distance by Johansson. He's a meter behind, well, almost a meter behind. Now Camel Stock on the crest of a wave at the moment. The World Cup leader. the Four Hills champion, the Big Hill Olympic champion, and he's absolutely in the groove. Well, hang on a second, there are some remarkable marks coming up here. I've seen a couple of 20s. I'm not sure that deserves a 20. No, they've all been adjusted. Good, but not worthy of 20s. I thought they'd all gone bonkers for a moment. The reason is this: that isn't a bad telemark, but it's not a 20 out of 20 telemark. But yet again, Camel Stock with 143 points. And he wins the qualification and sets out his stall. And Robert Johansson has to be satisfied with second place, but he is 6 points, 3 meters adrift. And Freitag is 8 points, almost 5 meters behind. Still trying to work out quite how Freitag was quite that far behind with all those style marks, but there you go. Nice competitive leaderboard, good Norwegian presence in there. Kubatski in the top 5 with his captain Stock, and then Stefan Kraft in there for the Austrians. Good to see Granerud up there. Schlierenzauer, they're still encouraging. Preutz will need to recover. Sato down in 18th place, 121 points, so that is 22 points behind. 12 meters for him to find. Mickey Heibeck with an even bigger task, but we work our way down. 50 is the cut, and I can tell you the last man to make it, and he's very fortunate, and that is Anze Lanisek with a very modest 103 points. Now that is 40 points behind, so you're looking at something like 24 meters behind for Lanisek, who makes the cut. Everybody else there, Kozicek, Alto, Romashov, Takauchi, Kornilov, they will not take part in Sunday's event, but they will maybe involved as part of their teams in the team competition tomorrow afternoon. But Maciej Kot, ooh, that hurts. And there you've got 4 of the Kazakhs there between rank 67 and rank 73, which only underscores what I've been saying for the whole season. They need to really get their act together. But there's the trophy, the first All Raw Air trophy for the winner of the qualification. Camel Stock very much on top of the world at the moment. And interesting because Camel Stock, never a winner here in Oslo. 3rd 3 years ago. Might be different on Sunday. Well, worth having a look at Camel Stock's jumping at the moment. What's so good? There you have the Raw Air standings, essentially the points that you've just seen. So it's only a replica of the previous graphic. So tomorrow is the first of the team events, and I hope we can have your company. 5 o'clock Central European time, and Camel Stock, of course, will be involved in that. From myself, David Goldstrom, Eurosports Nordic team, thanks for being with us and watching, and we hope to have your company through the 10-day Raw Air journey. For now, though, bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.